everyone, my name is Elaine, and today I'm going to be analyzing a poem which appears in Read America's, an anthology, which was edited by Harry Alluri, Garrett Bryant, and Amanda Fuller. The poem is called Other Small Thundering, and it was written by Natalie Diaz. It's on pages 74 and 75. I'm not actually sure where this poem first appeared, if it was in a magazine or one of her collections, so if you guys know, I'd be interested in finding out. Feel free to comment below. Other Small Thundering. We are born with spinning coins in place of eyes, paid in full to ferry Charon's narrow skiffs. We red-cloaked captains helming dizzying fits of sleep, tied to the masts, not to be driven mad by the caroling of thirsty children, or the symphony of dogs slaking hunger, by licking our rib cages like xylophones. Our medicine bags are anchored with buffalo nickels, sleek skulls etched by gatelings, how we plow and furrow the murky sticks lovingly, digging with smooth, dark oars, like they are grandmother's missing legs, a familiar throb of kneecap, shin, ankle, foot, promising to take us home. A gunny sack full of tigers rustles in our chests. They pace, stalking our hearts, building a jail with their stripes, each tail a fuse, each eye a cinder. Chest translates to bomb, bomb is a song, their drums shame-hollowed lament. Burlap is no place for prayers or hands, the reservation is no place for a jungle. But our stomachs growl. Somewhere within us there lies a king, and when we find him. The snow-dimmed prairies are garlanded with children. My people dance circles around pyres, but do not celebrate the bodies, small, open, red as hollyhocks. Some crawled until they came undone, petal by petal, stripping the white field crimson. Others lay where they first fell, enamored by the warmth of a blanket of blood. My dress is bluer than a sky-weeping bone, so this is the way to build a flag, with a pretty little Springfield .45 caliber rifle. So this is the way to sew wounds, with a hot little howitzer. Yesterday is much closer than today, a black bayonet carried between the shoulder blades, like an itch or the bud of a wing. We've memorized the way a Hotchkiss can wreck a mouth. Streetlights glow, neon gourds, electric dandelions. Blow them out. Push hard for orange buttes and purple canyons. Moon-hoofed horses with manes made from wars. Other small thundering. Throughout history, Europeans have encroached upon Native American lands, not only taking their territory, but damaging it as they fought to acquire the resources they needed to survive. Nothing has changed. PG&E has polluted the Mojave's sacred lands, leading to the destruction of their traditional ways of life. In her poem entitled Other Small Thundering, Natalie Diaz reflects upon hardships that her people are enduring due to PG&E's actions. Other Small Thundering evokes images of both death and the afterlife by referencing ancient Greek mythology. Natalie Diaz is a Mojave Indian. Traditionally, her people resided along the lower Colorado River in what are now the U.S. states of Arizona and California, and in Mexico. This valley was a patch of green surrounded by barren desert and was subject to an annual flood. Thus, the Mojave have depended on a mixture of means in order to obtain the food they need to survive, farming, hunting, and gathering, as well as fishing. For a time, Diaz dwelled in this area before moving overseas to play professional basketball in both Europe and Asia. It is during her time overseas that Diaz must have learned more about European cultures and discovered more about ancient Greek mythology and religion. Later, her knowledge would provide easily recognizable images that would form the basis of her poem, Other Small Thundering. The Mojave still inhabit their traditional homeland. Unfortunately, their home is being threatened by the actions of large companies such as PG&E, which has contaminated the groundwater under and around the maze with hexavalent chromium, that's pictured here. This landscape includes the Colorado River, a marsh, a gorge, and mountains. It is both a physical manifestation and a spiritual pathway for the afterlife, and could not be more important to them. Since the river leads to the afterlife and the ancient Greeks were ferried across the river Styx to the afterlife, Diaz chose to put the two together in her poem. This created a rich series of images which her readers would find familiar. As a result, it was easier for Diaz to get her point across than it would have been had she referenced her own culture more heavily, a culture which most people aren't familiar with. The first two lines of Natalie Diaz's poem, Other Small Thundering, read, We are born with spinning coins in place of eyes, paid in full to ferry Charon's narrow skiffs. Already, Diaz evokes images of death. This is due to the fact that two coins were placed over the eyes of the dead in ancient Greece, providing the newly deceased with the money they needed to pay Charon to ferry them into the underworld. In essence, Diaz is saying that her people are born dead and that they pay to be carried into the afterlife. In the following line, Diaz refers to her subjects as red-cloaked captains. Therefore, Diaz backtracks a little bit. By referring to her subjects as captains, Diaz expresses that they transport themselves into the afterlife. Furthermore, their red coats could be a reference to blood and death. Diaz's decision to allow her subjects to row themselves into the afterlife is more consistent with Mojave religious beliefs, since the dead would make the journey themselves without the help of an outside figure such as Charon. It is also important to note the use of the word skiffs in the second line. This is due to the fact that a skiff is a type of boat. Skiffs are small. They can only carry a few people and are often used in fishing. During life, the Mojave would have used skiffs in order to fish along the Colorado River, so this reference ties back into the Mojave tradition of captaining small boats in order to catch fish to sustain themselves. The next few lines of the poem discuss how the travelers pass thirsty children and dogs who are licking bones. They express how the captains are getting farther and farther away from home. As they do so, they pass familiar images and more of the dead, children who are thirsty because they cannot drink the water of the dead, which lies beneath their skiffs, and dogs who pick at the bones of those who made the mistake of drinking the water. Our medicine bags are anchored with buffalo nickels, is the following line of the poem. Medicine bags were used to hold sacred objects. In the poem, they have become heavy with buffalo nickels. In this instance, I feel as though Diaz is being ironic. Although pg&e offered reparations to the Mojave, it is not enough. Their lands are still contaminated and messy. Thus, their medicine bags have been weighed down by objects with no worth and a false sacredness. Masses of 5-cent pieces and the promise to make things better create a sort of emptiness because nothing has changed. Furthermore, the fact that the medicine bags are being filled with objects which do not represent the natives' identity suggests that their willingness to take pg&e's money has caused them to lose part of their identity, a sacred portion of themselves. The next few lines of the poem discuss how the captains continue to move more deeply into the realm of the dead, although they long for the promise of home. The poem's second stanza opens with a gunny sack full of tigers wrestles in our chests. They pace, stalking our hearts, building a jail. In these lines, Diaz is referencing the hexavalent chromium poisoning that her people had been forced to contend with on account of pg&e's actions. In essence, she is referencing the lung complications that may arise because of chromium poisoning. Following lines, which contain phrases such as each tale a fuse and chest translates to bomb, drive this idea home. The chromium is a ticking time bomb. Eventually, it is going to go off and kill the infected individual. The following lines refer to the funeral rites that transpire following an individual's death. They also suggest that everything that is happening shouldn't be happening. As Diaz narrates, time passes and it becomes apparent that our captains have delved even farther into the afterlife. The third stanza opens with the line, "The snow-dimmed prairies are garlanded with children." This line suggests that the captains have reached what the Greeks referred to as the Elysian Fields, a paradise reserved for heroes. Thus, the travelers have reached the end of the road and arrived at their destination, paradise. For the Mojave, their paradise is the mirror of the homeland they left behind. However, it is a muted mirror, a snow-dimmed prairie, because it isn't real. It's only a dream, a memory, the land of the dead. It's snow-dimmed, reduced to shades of white and gray, because it is a ghost of its former self. It is the dead's version of what once existed in life, before pg&e polluted the land and caused it to die. The following lines read, "My people dance circles around pyres, but do not celebrate the bodies, small, open, red as hollyhocks." In other words, the natives in the afterlife are dancing and behaving as they might have in life, but they are not celebrating, because they recognize that they are deceased. The bodies, red as hollyhocks, is a reference either to blood, a simple symbol of death, or the rashes and other skin irritations caused by chromium exposure and poisoning. The following lines discuss the manner of the Mojave's deaths. Some crawl before their demise, others simply fell down and died. This leads to Diaz's sorrow. The following lines are references to guns, suggesting that the Mojave must fight in order to protect themselves and their homelands, that the only way to sew wounds is through verbal and or physical warfare. The poem's final lines talk about glowing streetlights, neon gourds, and electric dandelions. These lines reference how pg&e supplies its customers with electrical energy. The following line is an instruction. Readers are told to blow them out. In other words, Diaz is urging for a reduction in our country's dependence on electricity because it is leading to the bastardization and death of nature from the previous line, e.g. electric dandelions. She urges us to wish for things of the past. Things like purple canyons and horses. She urges us to bring life thundering back into her homeland by abandoning companies like pg&e, but she also seems to recognize that this is not possible. This is due to the fact that Diaz has spent the entirety of her poem calling attention to the fact that pg&e has contaminated and ruined the Mojave's traditional homeland. She has explained that the Mojave are doomed from the moment of their birth because they are going to be subject to chromium poisoning. In essence, the poem reflects the death of the Mojave's homeland, environment, culture, and people. She laments the death of everything she has known. In conclusion, Natalie Diaz's poem entitled Other Small Thundering discusses the cultural death of her people, a death caused by pg&e contaminating the sacred lands of the Mojave with hexavalent chromium. And that concludes my analysis of Other Small Thundering, a poem by Natalie Diaz, which can be found in Read America's and Anthology. If you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to purchase a copy of Read America's and Anthology, please look at the links down below. You'll be able to read not only Natalie's poem, but others like it. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.